Offices usually hold them for years and years and years.
And they're not elected, and they're not accountable. Is that correct?
They are totally unaccountable. The treasurer will give a one budget report at a certain time during the year, and I listened to this report not 2 months ago, and if an accountant in the business world attempted to give such a superfluous report to his boss, he would be fired on the spot.
Now, just so our listening audience realizes that you're not just some yahoo who walked in off the street and went through the first degree and are now in a radio program trying to tell them you know something about Freemasonry, what is the level of your status or your degree, or how high have you progressed through the initiatory levels?
It's not exactly something that any thinking individual would like to brag about, but I have shot like a rocket up the ranks of Freemasonry. Much like in America, excuse me, today, the Masons like to keep their members busy, busy, busy. They don't want to give them time to think about what they're doing, and they don't want to give them time to think about where they're going. They do this by ritual. All of Masonry is tied up in ritual, and you must memorize this ritual, and it is very, very extensive. Each office has its own whole slew of ritual to remember. But I worked hard. I've got a good memory. I rose through the ranks, and I'm now a 32nd degree Mason of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Southern Jurisdiction in the United States of America.
And this is the same branch of Freemasonry that Albert Pike belonged to, that created the Ku Klux Klan, the B'nai B'rith, and the branch off the B'nai B'rith called the ADL, or Anti-Defamation League. Is that correct?
Absolutely true. Albert Pike is considered to be a demigod among Freemasons, and actually a source of light all of his own. He took the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which did exist for some time before him. He took it after the Civil War and turned it into what it is today. He incorporated much of the pagan symbology into the degrees that are still used and practiced today. His name is revered. I've seen a bigger than life-size bust of complete bronze of Albert Pike that was created for $25,000. Some of that money was mine, by the way. They treat him next to godhood in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry.
Were you aware that Albert Pike was in constant communication and in concert with Giuseppe Mazzini in creating, not only creating, but Albert Pike at one time was the sovereign grand commander of all Freemasonry in the world, and operated in concert with Giuseppe Mazzini in control of what we now know is the world body known as the Illuminati?
The name Mazzini is familiar to me, and I have come across its connection to the Illuminati in my research, but no, I was not personally aware, and this comes as no surprise, because with the exception of my own personal research, most of my information comes from the archives of the lodges I have participated and visited, or from Freemasons themselves, and all information is questionable at best. Never once, with the exception of one word, have I heard any reference to the Illuminati, and yet my own research points exactly in their direction for the true source of the Masons' power and the reason for their concealment. But no, I did not know about Mazzini.
Do the members of the lodge consider themselves to be illumined?
All of them do. Without even knowing the definition of the term, the true definition of the term, they consider themselves illuminated. They go around, they have that secret little smile, and they generally talk, no, not generally, they always talk down about most of the other people in the world, and I've even heard grown men refer to fellow Americans, brothers, as profane, simply because they had not advanced through the ritual of Freemasonry.
I remember a friend of mine who was a young man who was not a member of the lodge, but his father was. And he had a friend who belonged to another family who was not a member of the lodge, but owned a small business in town. and his small business was being destroyed by the members of the lodge simply because he was not a Freemason, and the business was going to members or lodge brothers. And he asked his father why his friend's family was literally being destroyed by his father and others who professed to be members of a fraternal organization existing for the benefit of the community. And his father told him, and I'll never forget this because it literally crushed my friend. His father told him this, quote, "If you are not one of us, you are nothing," unquote. Is this generally true? Is this the way Freemasons generally think about people who do not belong to their organization?
I have personally seen Masonry interfere with family ties before, and yes, this is just how they look at the world. They consider the world to be profane, unilluminated, and this just goes hand in hand with the general attitude that is conveyed by all Masons, that they are on their road to their own form of godhood, and this manifests itself in severe racism. For all the people out there that may not be too familiar with Masons or Masonry, and this especially goes for members of minority groups who have often and usually continue to be excluded from Masonry, and especially for women, I'm here to tell you that you are not welcome in the lodge. You never will be, and you never have been welcome in the lodge. This especially goes for blacks, in spite of the Prince Hall Masonry, which is the biggest joke and the biggest scam and the biggest insult to any single race I've ever seen, and especially for women. They do not want you, and they consider you totally ineligible and unable to understand what they do.
You told me something the other night that I found just incredible. You said that you could go to any Prince Hall Lodge in any black community and the doors would be open to you and you'd be welcome, but if one of those members or brothers of the lodge or the Prince Hall Lodge came to your lodge and tried to come in and participate in the ceremonies or whatever you call them, what would happen?
It wouldn't happen. It just simply wouldn't happen. I, as a Caucasian Freemasonry, can visit any Prince Hall Lodge in the country, and as far as I know, in the world. I can also visit any lodge, period, across the world. I've been told through my initiation that I am welcome in any lodge, but this just does not apply to blacks. No matter that, even if the ritual that they go through, and I do not know this for certain, but I know it's similar. But even if the ritual were exact, even if the same form of quote-unquote illumination that they underwent was exact, they could not ever, and I sit in a lodge with Caucasian Freemasons. I've never seen a black Freemason sit in a lodge among Caucasians, and I don't think I will. Equal opportunity and affirmative action laws are just completely ignored and considered frivolous and a joke by all Freemasons.
So the New World Order that they're bringing into being is going to be racist?
Entirely. It has an Aryan background, and that is where it comes from.
And that's been borne out by our research. Why then would the black community form their own lodges and support the bringing about of a New World Order that is going to relegate them back into slavery? And I might add, along with the rest of us who don't belong to this religion, and it is a religion, why would they participate in something like that?
Well, as you've told me yourself, and most people will understand this, the world loves a mystery, and you can control the masses by dangling a secret like a carrot in front of their nose and promising them the answer to that secret if they just merely do what you say and work for you. This, together with man's own entirely fallible human nature and the selfishness of man and the ego of man, they want to be something. They want to be better than the people around them that they see. And since they have been told straight out that they can never advance to the ranks of Caucasian Freemasons, they have settled for just being better than their own people and excluding other blacks from joining their own lodge.
So one of the holes that Freemasonry has over people is that ordinary people, whether they be black, white, Oriental, Hispanic, doesn't matter, they want to be part of the elect. Is that true?
Exactly. They want to join the elite. They'd like to look down on their fellow man.
Okay. But now, if nobody coerced you, nobody proselytized you, how did you get into the lodge?
I went to the door and I knocked on it.
We're back in the studio, folks, with William Morgan, a CAJI member who has infiltrated the lodge. Now, this man is no dummy. You have to understand, within 2 years, he has risen from entered apprentice to 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite of the Southern Jurisdiction. Now, that's quite a distinction within the lodge, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it can be considered as such. It does get a measure of respect from those who never advance past the third degree of Master Mason.
And what is the next step?
After the 32nd degree, there is publicly known only one more degree of Freemasonry, and that is the 33rd degree.
And you said publicly known. Does that mean that there's more?
I suspect that there is, that there really is more.
Do you know that for sure?
No, I do not. I do not know it for sure. I've heard there's a man by the name of Reverend Jim Shaw who was well, he actually still is by Masonic law, who still is a 33rd degree Freemason. And when he became a 33rd degree, he knew another Mason who was going through the same ritual, who said that he was going to advance even further because he had professed a support for the Luciferian doctrine that they preach.
So what you have just said, this is coming from your mouth, a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite. You have just said, I didn't prompt you, I didn't ask you the question. In fact, you just surprised me because I was going to lead up to this, but you just said the Luciferian doctrine. Can you explain that?
I can explain that absolutely. Masons believe in light. It is a priority part of their entire ritual. Now, light to a Mason symbolizes knowledge and also intellect. And if you've paid attention to the Mystery School broadcast, you know who the patron god of intellect is. It is Lucifer, and in fact his very name means the farrier or the bearer of light. Luce is Latin for light and fair for farrier. This is the true God of Freemasonry, and this is also, to my great shame, the God that I knelt at the altar before and swore my blood oaths to.
But when you did this, were you aware that you were swearing your blood oaths to Lucifer and not to the God of the Christian Bible?
Absolutely not. Everything about Masonry says and publicly says that their God is the same God as any God, the God of Hindus, the God of Arab, the God of Christians. But it's just not so. It's a lie and it's a scam, and all you have to do is study paganism, nature worship, and the mystery religions of Babylon to see who that real God is.
So you have done this study on your own, and you've checked out the publications and the doctrines and the symbology within your own lodge, and you've arrived at the conclusion that the God of Freemasonry is who?
The God of Freemasonry is Lucifer, who is actually Satan, cast from heaven for one specific reason, and that is because he, like many other Masons, sought to attain godhood in his own time.
And isn't that really the goal of Freemasonry, is by their works they will become God?
Exactly. It is a matter of works. Salvation has nothing to do with it. There is no repentance of sin, and in their minds mankind was never separated from God, but is able to be an equal to or superior to God.
Now, mind you, folks, I sincerely believe in the Constitution of the United States of America. This is not a religious program, irregardless of what you may think you are hearing. And I'm not making judgment on any of this whatsoever. I believe that anyone has the right, under our Constitution, to worship at any altar that they wish to worship at. I do not agree with this Luciferian doctrine. I do not worship at that altar. The only thing that bothers me in the performance of their religion is that they are attempting to control and manipulate the rest of us into a one-world totalitarian socialist government with a one-world religion that we will all have to bow down to, with Lucifer, or Satan, as the head of that religion, actually incarnated in a human body. They intend to install Lucifer upon the throne of the world. Have you found any credence for this?
I found great credence for this, and the best place to go to confirm this is just pick up the book Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. He himself will state, number one, that Masonry is a religion, and number two, that Lucifer is involved. That is all I needed to confirm my suspicions, and it should be all that is needed to confirm the suspicions of all the other Masons that are out there wandering in darkness, thinking that they are living in illumination.
So, most Freemasons, do they really believe that Freemasonry is a Christian organization?
No, they really don't. They may themselves be Christians, and most in America are, but it is a strict rule and law of the lodge, written into their own constitutions, that no discussions or debates concerning religion or politics ever be brought into the lodge. They do